This was a really big international effort in trying to understand the causes of depression. And so it pulled data from researchers from 29 countries around the world, where we ended up with a really large sample size, looking at about 680,000 people that had suffered from depression, and then comparing their DNA to over 4 million people that hadn't had depression before. So it's really the world's largest study into the genetics of depression.
Gosh, it is big, and compiling all that data must have caused quite a headache. What did you find?
We uncovered about 697 small genetic variants. So these are variations in genes that seem to be associated with risk of depression. And we're really excited about this because of 300 of these were previously unknown. So it's really increased our understanding of how biology plays a role in depression risk.
So each thing that you found on its own can be a cause of depression, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. So each of these genetic risk variants have a very small effect on their own. So no one of them is going to cause depression, but cumulatively they can increase your risk. But I think it's also important to bear in mind that even if you have a lot of these genetic variants, that's not deterministic. That doesn't mean you will definitely get depression. It just means that you might have an elevated risk. But obviously things like environment, lifestyle, traumatic experiences, we know that those are also play a really big role in the causes of depression.
So Brittany, what does having this information give us? How will it benefit how we go from here?
So we're really excited about understanding the biology more, because this is really one of the first steps in providing better treatment. So if we know what's happening in the brain and we know what pathways are being enriched or being activated when people suffer from depression, we can develop drugs that target these pathways and provide more tailored treatments, or potentially reuse drugs that are already on the market that are maybe used to treat other disorders, but work on those same pathways that we now know play a role in depression. And these drugs might then also provide new treatment avenues for people.
Oh, that's interesting. So some of the genetic mutations or the genetics that are there can be treated with drugs that are currently on the market, but just not for depression.
Yeah, so that's a really kind of novel and exciting aspect of the study. Is what we did was by understanding the genetic variants that are linked to depression and kind of what biological processes they're involved in the body, we've been able to map back to medications that are currently on the market. So one of the common ones that we highlight in the paper is a medication called modafinil. It's prescribed to treat narcolepsy and is often prescribed to shift workers that need to stay up kind of through the night. And we know that drug targets a lot of the similar pathways that are occurring in depression. So there's potential that this may end up being able to be used for depression. We're obviously a little way off, and we don't want everyone to rush out and buy modafinil to treat their depression now, but we're very excited by that because it obviously cuts down the time significantly in getting a new treatment to patients, rather than developing drugs from scratch and having to go through all the clinical trial basis. We know that it's safe, it's available, it's on the market. We just don't know if it's going to help with depression, but that's the next step in the research.
Okay, we know that with depression, prevention is key. How does the research that you've been part of, how does it play into that, the prevention aspect?
I think showing that the biology does play a significant role in depression risk for some people is really promising, and we've shown that if we create a genetic risk score from these identified genes that we've found, that this risk score is predictive of depression, and it is able to significantly kind of associate with people that have depression. And so the ultimate goal would be that this ends up in the healthcare system down the line, when and that can then be used with healthcare professionals to match, if you know you're at high risk, to help interventions or prevention strategies early on, so we can start talking about preventing depression rather than just treating it once it's occurred.